Welcome to the live stream. I'm Mark Graban. I'm going to be your host for the session here today. We'd love to hear where you're from. Please say hello in the chat. Let us know where you live or where you're connecting to us from. We're going to take questions during the session, so please submit those in the chat at any time. I'm joined today by three panelists. We're going to hear a little bit more about them in their own words in a minute, but we're joined today by Josh Howell, who's the president and executive team leader at the Lean Enterprise Institute. We're joined by Bruce Hamilton, who's the president at GBMP Consulting Group. And we're also joined by Ken Snyder, executive director of the Shingo Institute. And today we're here to talk about and give a preview to an upcoming event that their three organizations are co-sponsoring along with six other organizations. This event is the Future of People at Work Symposium. It's being held in Detroit, July 18th and 19th. In a minute or two, I will put a link to the event page so you can learn more about that and hopefully register. So, okay, with that, Josh, let's do some round robin. I'll ask you to start first in terms of the introductions, who you are. Tell us about your organization, please.
Awesome. I want to say hi to James Brooks, who I see is in Arlington, Mass, which is also where I'm coming to you all from, Arlington, Mass. So hi, everybody. My name is Josh Howell. Currently serve as the president of LEI, as Mark mentioned. I've been with the Lean Enterprise Institute for about since 2013. Prior to that, spent 9 years to the day working for Starbucks Coffee Company, where I was introduced to lean thinking and practice. Anyway, thrilled to be with you all this morning. Or this afternoon. Thanks, Mark, for hosting our conversation here.
Yeah, happy to do so. Thank you, Josh. We'll go next to Bruce Hamilton.
Yeah, so hello, everybody. I'm Bruce Hamilton. I think I know everybody here on the podcast. I've been around for a while. I write a post called Old Lean Dude, which started as a joke by my staff. So I turned that into a blog, and been passionate about lean, continuous improvement, TPS for quite a while, going back into the 1980s. Managed a factory for some time. We were one of the early Shingo Prize recipients, and since that time been a strong advocate of the Shingo Institute and the Shingo Prize. Known Ken for a long time, and excited about this kind of collaboration.
Thanks, Bruce. And before we go to Ken, I'm going to say hi to people who are joining us from Nashville, Akron, Ohio, Fairfield, Iowa, Cincinnati, which is basically where I am. Hi, Colleen. New York City. Hi, Rachel. Rachel Regan's here from Massachusetts. So with that, Ken Snyder, how about we'll have you go next.
Hi. So Ken Snyder, I'm the executive director of the Shingo Institute. I, like Bruce, got involved with what at the time we called Kaizen. I was working for a Japanese company in Japan and learned a lot about it during that time. I was in industry for about 30 years, and then in 2008 joined Utah State University, which is the home of the Shingo Prize and also of the Shingo Institute, and got involved with Shingo then. Became the executive director in 2015, 9 years ago, and love the opportunity it gives me to work with some of the best people in the working world around the whole world. And so really enjoy what we do, and I am highly motivated to help people find meaning in their work. I think everyone deserves the right to find meaning in their work, which really involves being engaged and worrying about improvement. So all ties together.
Yeah, that's very well said. So hopefully finding more meaning in our work is part of the future of people at work. And again, that is the name of the symposium, the Future of People at Work Symposium. Josh, could you tell us, give us an overview of the event, how it's structured, or maybe even start with the purpose, how and why it came to be?
Sure. So to Ken's point, that desire that I think we all share to help people find meaning in their work also leads to a concern, I think, that we all have, which is that, that has been a challenge for us to achieve for everyone in all of their work for years. Remains a challenge today. And there are certain developments, we could say, that give us kind of pause and concern that may get harder still in the future. So the title of this event, The Future of People at Work, in part sort of inspired by, I guess, a popular conversation that's out there around just the future of work kind of period. That conversation's kind of all over the place. I mean, there's a whole initiative set up at our neighbor organization here in Boston, Massachusetts, MIT, titled The Future of Work. But what we often see in those conversations is a focus or an emphasis on sort of the technical side of what that means, like the technology that's emerging that is coming to increasingly define kind of the work that people do and how they do it and how they learn to do it and all that kind of stuff. And we feel like oftentimes who's kind of left out of those conversations are the people who do that work, the people who interact with that technology, who work inside those processes. So we wanted to squarely put kind of the emphasis on that, on people. And the risks and the implications of all that's emerging for them as they continue to do their best to create value for their customers, so on and so forth. So an overview of the event. In essence, it's a conversation that we've been having now for a couple of years, actually, sort of inspired by several of, well, I guess all three of our organizations represented here and others who have been celebrating kind of significant anniversaries. In the case of LEI, we passed our 25th anniversary not so long ago, and have been in this kind of state of reflection. In LEI's case, if, kind of what's been going on for the last 25 years and what might the next 25 years look like, which, begs questions along the lines of, well, it depends on what the future of work will look like as to what sort of the future of lean might look like. And so some conversations along those lines have been taking place for the last couple of years. And then about, I guess it was at the beginning of this year, we came up with this idea to organize an event wherein we can kind of involve more people in this conversation and kind of organize it and structure it in a way that can really help us get to the heart of the matter and come away kind of collectively, folks like me that work at an organization like LEI, Ken, Bruce, but really any of the participants with perhaps a deeper appreciation and understanding about the trends and sort of the direction that work is headed. So that we then can kind of take a step back and reflect on, well, if that's the direction that work's going, what might kind of need to happen in the world of kind of continuous improvement and problem solving and people engagement, kind of in light of those developments. So in essence, I guess, the symposium is meant to be an opportunity for us to kind of delve into that, along with folks that are kind of in the fight, so to speak, to think together, to reflect together, and then to kind of ideate together on what we can do going forward, what experiments we can run within companies or collectively as a community. That's the kind of output, I guess, that we're sort of expecting after a day and a half in Detroit, Michigan.
Yeah, thank you, Josh. And I'll want to hear from Ken and Bruce, about why you're participating in this. I would love to hear a little bit first, Josh, about some of the format and the approach. This is definitely not the traditional conference of come and sit passively in an audience and hear people speak at you for a day and a half. It sounds like it's going to be a lot more active participation.
Yeah, quite different than that. So, I guess one thing to just quickly mention, and it's sort of evidence in this live stream here, but we've got 7 leading lean-focused organizations that have come together to put on this activity. That in and of itself, I think, is a big deal. So we've got the Lean Enterprise Institute, Shingo, GBMP that have been mentioned, TSSC, the nonprofit arm that promotes TPS out of Toyota, Catalysis, Central Coast Lean, Ohio State University Center of Operations Excellence. So we're all coming together to put this on. I think that's pretty cool. The fact that, we're engaging in this challenge kind of collectively representing really the entirety of the lean community. But from a format standpoint, what we've identified for the day and a half that we'll be together are 3 kind of high-level themes that we want to dig into and then there's a pattern for how we'll dig into those themes. So the three themes are workplace and workforce evolution. So there's all sorts of changes that are afoot in the workplace, such as the rise of knowledge work, such as like turnover from one generation to the next, kind of the intermixing of generations that many organizations are kind of challenged by at times. And then, of course, factors such as remote and hybrid work. So anyway, so the evolution of the workplace and the workforce. Topic number 2 is technology integration. So of course, lots of conversation around the emergence of AI, but there's also pretty exciting technologies such as AR and VR and robotics, and all of those things are interacting with the work that we do. So that's kind of topic number 2. And then topic number 3, we're saying is supply chain transformation. So this might involve vertical integration or just locating your supply chain to be in some proximity to your customer and in some proximity to your suppliers, all that kind of stuff. And there's just lots of rethinking as to what a good looking supply chain should look like these days. So those are the 3 main kind of areas that we're going to delve into. And then the pattern for how we'll kind of work through those topics is to first hear from a speaker or 2 who have really good information about that challenge and or just good experience, kind of practitioner experience in working on that challenge area. So they'll kind of be like our thought starters, so to speak. We'll hear from a couple of feature contributors in that way. But then as quickly as possible, we want to get into kind of collaborative working sessions with everyone that will be there. In fact, a majority of the time will be spent in collaboration, not kind of sitting passively listening to a speaker, like might be the experience of a more traditional kind of conference, but I don't know, kind of working on it, like thinking about it together, reflecting on what's going on together, sharing stories, sharing ideas, generating ideas. That's the idea. So that's the basic pattern. Is kind of hear from someone hear from a couple of feature contributors with some thought starters, then put it into the hands of all of us that will be in attendance, all of the contributors to kind of work through it. And then we'll do some sharing out of those various kind of smaller group conversations along the way. But basically, that'll be the pattern. And then over the course of a day and a half, we're expecting to generate lots of ideas and just kind of even clarity around what are the concerns that people have. What are they hoping that if they're not actively learning what needs to be learned in a given challenge, someone is, hopefully, that they may meet and interact with there at the symposium. So lots of ideas, I think, that could set sort of the direction for us as a community in the years ahead as to what kind of experiments we should be conducting, what areas of kind of research and learning will be important as things unfold. I guess that's about the pattern and the themes and the structure and format and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. Thanks, Josh. Ken, maybe I'll bounce it to you next, to talk about your perspectives on why you and the Shingo Institute are participating.
So a couple of reasons, Mark. First of all, I think that we have not accomplished what we kind of set out to do when we all got involved with Lean or Kaizen in the first place. We had this vision of wanting to change the world, and we haven't really succeeded at that. We've changed a small portion of the world, but not the world yet. And we still see too many people trapped in old ways of thinking, what I consider old ways of command and control thinking and financially driven rather than value creation thinking. And sometimes that results in extractive behaviors, to use a new economic term that I find very useful to describe what some of the people are doing. So we need a different way of doing it. We need it to be something that is more pervasive, and we have not done enough outreach to outside of our community, and I think we are better together in doing that. So if we've kind of all pursued our own interests too much, maybe, and we haven't teamed together to figure out how we can do better outreach, and this is an attempt to start doing that. And I say start very deliberately because I think we've got to keep doing it if we're going to actually reach the broad community that right now is not influenced by lean thinking. And so that's one big reason. The second big reason is the world is changing more and more rapidly as time goes on. We're getting more and more emerging technologies. We're seeing, and there's a term that some people maybe have heard, but I've heard it numerous times over the last year or so, and that's VUCA. VUCA is an abbreviation for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous.
Mm-hmm.
And all of those things are true. The world is more volatile all the time. It is more uncertain all the time. It is more ambiguous all the time. And particularly when we look at new technologies, it is more complex all the time. I believe that lean thinking or Kaizen, creating the right kind of culture, are the ways to deal with that kind of an environment. They're the best way. So if we're going to create a great future for people, we've got to teach them the principles behind how to create a great organization, create that great organization, and then you can respond to the VUCA world as best you possibly can. And so to me, creating that future is a key to having organizations and the people that work in those organizations be successful in the future. And that's really the second big reason why I think we need to do this.
Okay, thanks, Ken. Bruce Hamilton, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so the word collaboration has probably been mentioned a dozen times already today, and that has been a kind of a hallmark of the work over the last year or so. As Josh and Ken said, organizations which maybe inadvertently were competing against each other, and with differing in small ways, but so the opportunity to find those things that we can agree upon rather than the things that we disagree upon, that's a big deal, I think. I think it's important with improvement to be eclectic, to pick and choose. There's many opportunities to improve, and perhaps Ken and Josh also referred to sort of this anniversaries that were anniversary sort of presumes that there's time gone by, and GBMP was started 30 years ago and LEI 25, and there's a lot of gray hair in the business. Okay. And so this is important to me because it's hard to have a perspective sometime in the moment. The last several years have definitely been a shock to the system. I think we're all still kind of stunned, like what happened? What's going on? What is a trend? What's transient? Hard to know in the moment. And I think we need to be thinking about that strategically, and also in context of, let's say, this younger generation that we're talking about. Younger, I don't know. I see a couple of younger people here, Ken, maybe younger, but this does not necessarily mean young. I have a 26-year-old daughter who swears she will never go into an office. That's her, it's her thinking. It's her thought process. And I'm not questioning that. I'm just trying to understand what's happening in the world. Okay. And things that might be considered disruptive processes to some of us are just perfectly normal for this generation. They're just grown up with it, and they have no difficulty with it. So passing the baton's a big deal for me. As I decide to kind of ease off, I'd like to know that I'm sending along the message to someone else who's going to carry it forward, and I think that's a big part of this as well.
Can I pick up on that just a little bit?
Sure.
Because I agree wholeheartedly that Bruce and I don't have much runway left to put it in an airline type of scenario, but we do have a lot of influence, we think, and what influence can we have right now that will create a better future for the people that will be coming and do have that runway left?
Uh-huh.
And that's really, from a personal point of view, I want to try to create the best future for them that we possibly can. But and while we have that influence, let's use it for good. So I'm interested more than anything else in this conference, listening to people who do have that runway and hear them say, this is what I would like the future to be like, because I think we can help them get there.
Yeah. There's an opportunity, to talk to those people who have more of the future in their own work and talking to them. The event is relatively inexpensive, so hopefully, if companies are willing to send a group, that they send a diverse group to hear those different perspectives. Maybe we should have done this video on TikTok to reach a different crowd than LinkedIn. I know there's younger people here on LinkedIn too, of course, but yeah, it's a great point of wanting to hear all of those different voices. And when you talk about a range of ages and backgrounds, it seems like the event is very much focused on a broad range of industries, that you're talking about office work, manufacturing work that's still there, having Catalysis involved as a sponsoring organization. Their focus, of course, is in healthcare. There'll be people from software companies. Like there's a fairly broad scope for this discussion, it seems, for anybody who might want to comment on kind of that cross-industry view or multi-industry view.
Yeah, that's right. Well, perhaps not on that exactly, but I'm noticing Colleen's comment here. We're in a perfect storm at the moment, which eclipses lean. This will take some time to work through. And building on something Ken said, so the other idea with this activity is that it's not a one and done activity. Mm-hmm. We think this is an important conversation to be having now. We also think this is an important conversation to keep having. The world's going to continue to change. So the storm the perfect storm, as Colleen describes it, looks how it looks today. That's going to look different 12 months from now, 5 years from now. And so to set up for our community, we think, a mechanism wherein we continue to come together and kind of reflect on what's going on, learn more about what's going on, discuss what's going on, kind of think together, ideate together on what to do in response, we think is also just a missing kind of process in our community. Perhaps there's a version of that, that Ken and the team at the Shingo Institute have, or perhaps Bruce and the team at GBMP Consulting Group have. But as a full community, and right now, we're the three of us are representing kind of lean-focused, TPS-focused organizations. But even speaking more broadly to just the improvement community, folks that are out there with whatever set of ideas, helping individuals, teams, and organizations perform well and improve over time. That's really who we hope to ultimately kind of get to participate in this conversation, and to just recognize that unless we're staying in touch, staying in conversation, fine, maybe the symposium and those 12 hours will help us catch up to a degree. But, by the end of that day, we'll have fallen behind again, unless we kind of commit to continuing to stay in touch, continuing to get together, trying to kind of keep pace with the rate of just change and advancement in the world, and then have, our activities and our ideas reflect what's needed for these kind of evolving and ever-changing challenges and problems. So just another thing to say about the event. We're excited to put this on. We look forward to those that are going to make it to Detroit on July 18th and 19th in 2024. But we'll only get so far in that one event. And we're kind of recognizing that and planning to make this kind of a regular set of activities that we collaborate on and come together to just keep this conversation alive, which we think is essential to the nature of the problem and the challenge that we're looking at.
Yeah. And, to follow up on the idea of working across industries, I should also give credit to the three organizations represented here on the panel. The Lean Enterprise Institute, GBMP Consulting, and the Shingo Institute have worked with organizations. And I know Bruce and Ken, you also have perspectives about the current state in different workplaces and in different industries. And I know the event agenda is meant to discuss first that current state, and not just, I would expect some disciplined problem solving from this group of it not being a jump to conclusions event, analyzing the current state first. We would like to kind of talk about that approach for the event, or even more broadly, why is it so important to spend that time on looking at the current state and coming to some agreement on what the concerns or challenges are.
You want me to take that? Or Ken?
I'm waiting for Ken to answer.
I'll take it. And I was thinking, what's the best way to respond? But I'll respond in terms of, let's just look at the emerging technology. I'll pick AI because that's one that's the most pressed these days. But what's the right way to adopt AI? Should we as leaders be thinking of it as, this is something that's going to replace all those workers that I want to get rid of? Or do we think of it as, gee, if everybody got to understand AI and how they could use it in their own responsibilities to be more efficient and effective in their responsibilities, how can we train the people to get to that level so that it can be an enabler of a better culture and more productive work, better quality work, and so on? How do we utilize this emerging tool in a way that uplifts everybody and keeps them from having to do a lot of busy work that AI could do better for them anyway? And I think you can look at it as either perspective. And I think one way from a culture point of view is right, and one way is wrong. And I say it's wrong because if you do it the first way I mentioned, we're going to use AI to automate all these things and get rid of all these people, you're going to kill the culture. You're going to kill the workforce's sense of meaning for being in that organization, and you're going to drive people away, or you're going to drive their idea. Even if they stay, you're going to drive their ideas away. But if you train them on how to use AI to enable a better, productive, more quality driven, more whatever workforce, you're going to get people more excited about, gee, they really are investing in me to understand this and how we can use this to get better together. So I that's why I say this kind of thinking, driven by that higher purpose of helping people find meaning in the workplace, is the right way to approach emerging technology, and the most productive and the quickest way to be able to adopt it. So that's why I think this sort of a collaborative effort is important, because we need to help people understand the difference between a right path and a wrong path when it comes to this. That's my 2 bits.
Thanks, Ken.
So I might add a little bit to that, Mark. I think, again, this is not intentional, but different industries and different, let's say, consulting and thought practices within those industries have grown up separately over the years and have kind of become their own echo chambers. People within those groups just talking amongst themselves, and it becomes a question of this or that. Is this approach better than that? There doesn't seem, they always seem to be mutually exclusive, when in fact, if we could actually get together and listen to each other, we might find that there's some strengths in a variety of approaches. So listening is a big part of this symposium. I think we're here to listen, not to talk, which I will say personally is a challenge for me. I think for consultants,
for you, Bruce,
it's a challenge. But that I think is the charge. I think this is you mentioned current condition, and if we want to understand that, we really need to open up the mics and have everybody speak.
Yeah, that's well said. So there'll be a day focused on the current state. There'll be time focused on a future state, a better future of for people at work, better environments. So yeah, and what I hear from you today is that there's, I think, an exciting future state with more collaboration across organizations that have similar or the same missions, a community of communities. So that's, I think, an exciting future as well. So again, about the event, it's the Future of People at Work Symposium, Detroit, Michigan, July 18th and 19th. If you're watching on LinkedIn Live, there's a link to the event page in the event description. If you are watching or listening to a recording here via podcast or YouTube, look for a link in the show notes or the description of the video. So I want to thank everyone for attending live. Josh Howell, Bruce Hamilton, Ken Snyder have been our guests today. Maybe as we wrap up.
We'd love to see him at the symposium, Mark.
I think we should work. We sure do. Unfortunately, I have a work conflict, or I would be there, but trying to lend my support by helping get the word out. I'll be excited to hear what comes out of the event and hopefully get to participate in the future. So Ken's hoping you'll be there. Josh and Bruce, any final words to say farewell and see you in Detroit?
Yeah, I'll echo the same, and I guess express my enthusiasm for Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't been to Detroit in a long time, you need to get there. It's an awesome city. Talk about a city that's kind of fighting for its future. You'll see that all around in Detroit. It's really palpable. And so I think it's a fitting setting for what we're there to do as a lean community.
Yeah, well, that's great. I grew up in the Detroit area, so I will also give the hooray for Detroit, and I hope people will go and check out what's happening there, the event and otherwise. And Bruce, any final thoughts?
Nope. I'm looking forward to it. I'm bringing several people from the GBMP team. We're trying to get somebody from each of those. We've got a millennial coming with us, and make sure that we have many voices. So we're looking forward to it.
All right. Well, thanks for being part of the live stream today. Thank you, everyone, for attending. So again, Josh Howell from the Lean Enterprise Institute. You can go to lean.org and check out what they have there. Ken Snyder from the Shingo Institute. Their website is shingo.org. Bruce Hamilton from GBMP Consulting. Is it still gbmp.org, or is there?
It is.
Okay.
It is. Yes.
gbmp.org. So again, thank you, everyone. I hope the event goes well.
Yeah, thanks,
Thank
Mark.
you.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See ya.